Good morning and welcome to our reading and reflection for Sunday the 16th, I think, of August 2020. It's a strange reading today, troubling, unsettling, hard to perhaps, well, not hard to understand, but hard to like, hard to accept, hard to make sense of. Here's our reading, Matthew chapter 15. It's verses 21 to 28. Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. When he was there, a Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him, crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is suffering terribly from demon possession." Jesus did not answer her a single word. His disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away. She keeps on shouting out after us." But Jesus simply said, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel." Then the woman came and knelt in front of Jesus and said, "Lord, help me." But Jesus replied, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, I agree. But even the dogs may eat the scraps that fall from their master's table." Jesus said to her, "Woman, you have great faith. What you have asked for has been done." And her daughter was healed that very moment. What is going on here? The Bible has lots of strange stories, but this is really one of the strangest ones. Does Jesus call this innocent woman, helpless woman, desperate woman? Does he call her a dog? The first thing to say is that it's always surprising how people think that the Bible is God's propaganda. If so, this puts a very strange spin on things. It doesn't make Jesus look very good. But the story is there, and there must be a reason why it's there, and we have to deal with it, make sense of it, think about it, pray about it. What can we learn from it? What does it teach us and tell us about Jesus? And the story doesn't just occur here in Matthew chapter 15, it also occurs in Mark chapter 7, in a slightly different form with a few extra details. So if you add the two together, you get the maximum possible amount of details and information. So context, Jesus has left Israel and he's gone north into what is today the country of Lebanon. It's only the second time in his life that Jesus leaves Israel. The first time is when he goes south as a baby into Egypt. Mary and Joseph take him to get away from King Herod. And this time he has gone north, and again it seems that he's probably fleeing from his enemies who want to bring a premature and untimely demise. Jesus knows he's going to die. He's planning for his death. He's accepted it, but he knows it has to happen at a certain time in a certain place. And so he is withdrawn to Lebanon to avoid these people getting their hands on him. That seems to be what's happening. So is Jesus scared? I don't think so. Is he tired and irritable? I don't think so. Is he being a racist? I mean, this woman is a Gentile, and he says, "I've come first and foremost for my own people, for God's people, for the Jews. There is unfinished business. I am the Jewish Messiah, foretold and prophesied and predicted in the Jewish scriptures, and I need to deal first and foremost with my own people." Well, yes, but Jesus deals with plenty of Gentiles, plenty of non-Jews in his own country of Israel. But this woman is, of course, doubly an outsider. She is a non-Jew, she is a Gentile, but also she's living outside of Egypt. So Jesus, outside of Israel. So Jesus goes outside of Israel, where he meets this woman and says that he is unable and willing to help her. But does he have to use such offensive language? He says, "I'm not going to take this bread that is first and foremost for the children of Israel. I'm not going to take their bread and give it to the dogs." But then this woman comes back at him and accepts that model, that metaphor. Okay, she says, that's fine, but surely you can spare a scrap for a dog. Surely you can spare a scrap for a dog. But Jesus likes her comeback. He respects the way that she has taken what he said, run with it, but also turned it to her advantage. Still, even so, how could Jesus possibly have refused to hear this woman in the first place? She's there shouting out, she's crying out, and it's not for selfish purposes. She is desperate for her daughter, and Jesus ignores her. In fact, it gets to the point where the disciples say to Jesus, "Send her away. Send her away." And Jesus then has to say, we're not sure whether Jesus says it to the disciples, to the woman, to them all. Jesus says, I have come for the lost sheep of Israel. First and foremost, that's my primary objective. That's my primary objective. Then the woman does something amazing. She comes and she falls down at his feet. She kneels in front of him and she says 3 words. Lord, help me. Lord, help me. Now you might think now Jesus is going to do it. I mean, Jesus is, he's got unlimited power. Why would he not? He didn't help her when she was calling out and crying out and making a noise and a fuss and a commotion. But now, surely, now she's kneeling. She says, Lord, help me. And this is when Jesus comes up with this image. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right to take the children's bread and throw it to the table, to the dogs under the table. Is this racism? Is Jesus discriminating? It's certainly not because she's a woman, because we know Jesus treats women very well, treats them as equals to men, which of course was radical and revolutionary. But it does seem to be because she is here, this double outsider. We're outside of Israel, and she is not a Jew. Jesus is probably staying in a Jewish household with a Jewish family, and here comes this local woman and makes this request, and Jesus turns her down, but turns her down with this almost derogatory language, referring to Israel as children and Gentiles as dogs. Dog is, of course, an insult in the Middle East, a supreme insult in the Middle East, but the word Jesus uses is the diminutive. It means puppies, household dogs, pets, not scavenging strays. Still, I'm not sure how much that softens the blow. And it also kind of implies that there's a finite amount of food. I can't take some food that's meant for the children and give it to the dogs. You'll have to wait your turn, and if there's any left over at the end, then you can have the scraps and the spares. But Jesus, of course, doesn't have limited power. He has unlimited power. It would cost him nothing. It would diminish him not one bit to help this woman and to still have enough to spare for his own people, for the Israelites, for the Jews. So why does he do this? Why does he do this? I don't know. I don't know. But he makes it hard for this woman to come back at him. But come back she does. She accepts this premise. Okay, I'm a dog. But surely, Lord, you can spare a scrap. There's something for dogs, even while the children are still eating, even before the children have still eaten. And Jesus is impressed with that. Woman, he says, your faith is great. Your request is granted. And her daughter was instantly healed. So she's come right back at him. Jesus likes that. He seems to respect that. He holds back, he holds off, he holds out. But she won't be deterred. And her persistence pays off. It would be easy for her, when she heard this thing about children and dogs, it would be easy for her to take one of 2 courses of action. Resignation. Sadness, resignation, acceptance. Okay, I'm not going to get what I want. He's a Jew. He's come for the Jews. I'm a Gentile. It was cheeky of me to try and get something out of him. Off she goes. Sad. She could have been angry. How dare you call me a dog? What disgusting language is this? But she doesn't give in to either of those temptations. She accepts what Jesus has said, and she turns it to her advantage. And incidentally, this stands her in a good long tradition of men and women in the Bible who come back at God after they get an initial no. We see it with Jacob wrestling with the angel, with Abraham in Genesis chapter 18, with Moses in Exodus chapter 32. Remarkable persistence in the face of God's seeming intransigence. They won't take no for an answer. God is shaping and stretching these people by initially refusing. But I think it is God's will that they should come back at him, that they shouldn't take that initial no for an answer. God is stretching them and shaping them to do better, to do more, to come back at him. It's a kind of negotiating position that God takes. And I think he's pleased that these people don't accept his initial apparent rejection. This woman is audacious and courageous, but she's also humble and selfless. She hasn't come for her own needs, she's come for her daughter, and she is unwilling to leave empty-handed, despite Jesus's apparent or initial refusal. And in this respect, this woman reminds us a bit of Jesus' mother when Jesus performed his first miracle at a wedding in Cana. The wine runs out. Jesus' mother says to the waiters, to the servants, "Listen to my boy here, my son. He will solve this. He can fix this." And Jesus says to his own mother, "Woman, don't involve me in this. This is not my problem. My time has not yet come." Basically, I could do it, but I'm not going to do it. But his mother won't take no for an answer. And in the end, Jesus makes gallons of fantastic wine. But it's interesting that in both cases, this Gentile woman in a foreign country and his own mother, they have to ask and ask again. And in between those two first and second requests, they get a pushback, a rejection, and they push back against the pushback. And in the end, they get what they want. This is, I think, the will of God. I don't think these people in the Old Testament and this woman here and Mary, his mother, in the New Testament, I don't think that they're somehow bending God's will to their will, making God change his mind in a way that he doesn't like or hadn't expected. I think it is God's will and was God's will all along that they should push back, that they should challenge the rejection, that they should ask and ask again. Sometimes that's how prayer works. Why does God do that? Why not just give us what we want when we ask for it? Especially when this woman comes not seeking something for herself. She doesn't want this week's lottery numbers. She's praying for her daughter. She wants her child to be healed. And she comes with respect. She uses the right terms. She calls Jesus Lord. She calls him Son of David. Even so, even with all that in place, still the initial answer is not only a no, but a hard no. You dogs aren't going to eat until the children have eaten. But the woman won't take it. The woman won't take it. Or rather, she does take it, and she turns it. Finally, the last thing to say is this woman is a real role model to us. Jesus behaves in a way that we find difficult and strange and unsettling and unusual, not the way we would expect him to respond. But this woman is the real surprise. She kneels down. After making this long and loud request. She kneels down and she says 3 words: "Lord, help me. Lord, help me." If you want to pray this week, kneel down. I mean, physically, if you're able, if you've got knees that will bend and allow you to get back up again, kneel down. Physically, kneel down. And say those 3 words: "Lord, help me." You don't need to shout. You don't need to make long prayers. You don't need to explain or justify or argue. Lord, help me. Whatever it is you're praying for, whoever it is you're praying for, because this woman, she wasn't praying for herself. It was her daughter. Maybe it's your kids, your grandchildren. Maybe it's your husband, wife, partner, friend, family member. Maybe it's the world. Maybe it is you, and that's okay too. Kneel down, kneel, and say those 3 words: "Lord, help